You've given me a few minutes just to talk to all of you in our NASA family about emergency preparedness. NASA recently participated in a FEMA exercise called Eagle Horizon. It was a part of a continuity of operations and government exercise that we office. My experience as an active duty Marine always talked about the importance of family preparedness. And
would you like to begin?
Thank you. Well, what we have is a very complicated setup here, stretching literally a quarter of the way around the planet. So if everything doesn't work properly, please forgive us. This is a work in progress. There has been so much hype about this comet. My background, among other things, I'm an astronomer. I was curator of astronomy and space science at the Museum of Science in Springfield from the late 60s to into the 70s. And then I went to Cronkite as his science advisor on the Apollo project. I was actually a very tiny part of Project Apollo. I worked for the Grumman Corporation. I actually did their press book, the section on the moon. And it was through that I got an appreciation for the complexities of what the realities were versus what NASA was telling us those realities were. And my work for the last 30 or so years has been trying to synchronize and reconcile the two so that we get some kind of understanding of what we're not being told. Now, in the last several weeks, there has been this extraordinary hype, this internet frenetic conversation about something that is so tiny, such a little tiny speck, that it wouldn't even register on anybody's perception, mainly Comet Elenin. And Tommy, if we can go to the whiteboard, I've got a graphic which is up, which I hope we can take full screen, which shows you just the dimensions of the problem. Because if you didn't know this thing was coming, if you didn't know that there was a lot of anticipation, there'd be no reason to look at it and to imagine that anything untoward would be happening. But there has been this extraordinary hype ever since it was discovered by if we can zoom in just a little bit so we can center the image in the center of the screen, you can see that this object is insignificant. Celestially, it absolutely, you know, if that little tiny dot in the upper left-hand picture, the little fuzzy blob next to that bright streak, which is a star, taken by an amateur astronomer a few days ago from, I believe, Belgium, if you read the actual graphic. That's Elenin. That's what all this fuss is about. Now, let me have Tommy put up an animation, which we got from JPL. It's part of their Applet series. They've done a really great job, the staff there at JPL, in terms of actually providing us with animation, showing us the three-dimensional celestial mechanics. And what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in a bit here, and Tommy is just going to run through. This was the discovery date. This is December 10th, 2010, showing where the comet was almost to Jupiter when Leonid Elenin, who was a Russian astronomer, mathematician, working at an institute outside Moscow, using a remote robotic telescope, was able from his home and the institute there outside Moscow to take 4 CCD images on the night of December 10th, where he discovered this little tiny dot, this little fuzzy dot. And in the lexicon of astronomical literature and in the institutional paradigms, anyone who discovers a comet gets to name the comet after himself. So it is now Comet Elenin in general parlance. Actually, it's C210X1, which is the technical designation, but we'll call it Elenin from now on. And as you can see, if we click on the fast forward, we'll just run through what this thing did and is going to do from now till it leaves the solar system. If you actually go, Tommy, if we can have that now. If you actually go to the animation yourself on JPL, and we'll be posting this link on the Project Camelot archive at the close of the conference, you can see it comes into the solar system, crosses the orbit of Mars. Eventually, we're going to get to Earth. Actual closest approach of this object to the sun at 0.482 AU. Remember, 1 AU is the Earth distance from the sun. so less than half the Earth's distance. The closest it can get to the sun in this orbit is exactly on September 11th. Now you can say, okay, what are the odds a celestial object is going to come in randomly, remember, at any angle, any time of day or night, any distance, any year, any epoch, any century, and hit exactly that date, the date which is seared in modern human memory as memorializing terrible, awful things. So if that is a designed event, if this perihelion of this object has been designed for September 11th to memorialize the 11th, then you have to say, okay, who does memorializations of things? The guys who did the original thing. So in the model that September 11th was a bad guy event, and we're all kind of agreed, I think, among our panel, that, yeah, it was not a bunch of terrorists out of the Mideast. It wasn't Al-Qaeda. It was much more seditious and interesting and really bad. Whoever masterminded September 11th was doing it, then you back up and you say, okay, well, what were they trying to do? If you go back to what Keith and I have been working on, and Joseph and I have been working on, there you can see that September 11th, a la the World Trade Center disaster, Pennsylvania, Washington, was designed to capture human consciousness and completely take control with an overall horrible fear agenda. Because the physics, which I've been looking at, says that on that day, whatever happened was going to take control of human consciousness. So you've got good guys on the one hand, bad guys on the other, and the bad guys on September 11th, they won. They weren't supposed to win, but they won. They got in there and they won for the bad guy team. Whoever is sending Elanine is not playing, I believe, on that playbook. I don't think Elanine is a memorialization of the horror of September 11th. It was intended to be a reminder of the positive aspects of the physics that we were supposed to be in resonance with, that were supposed to take precedence on September 11th. Where is the proof of that model? It is in the next slide. Because if I get rid of this, all right, and maybe you might come back to me, Tommy, while I'm hunting around for my slides, okay? And let's see if we've got the right one here. Okay, here we are. Okay. On the 11th of November, if I can zoom out here, and you can go back to the whiteboard. Okay, that's it. Go back to the whiteboard. On the 11th of November, as this little object is leaving after having passed closest to the Earth on the 17th of October, it on 11/11/11 is exactly in line with the Earth, Mercury, and Venus. All very important planets in the hyperdimensional model. I actually was able to, when I was at Coral Castle some years ago, measuring the Venus transit of the Earth at Coral Castle, we got tremendous spikes of energy, resonance patterns, which I don't have readily available. I may find them before the end of the conference, which showed me that Venus, which rotates, remember, backwards, like stirring your coffee cream backwards, you know, a tremor in the force, except it's a backwards tremor, that Venus, at a particular geometric configuration, Keith, is a major player in this physics. So someone has set this trajectory of this little guy up so that not only on September 11th does it memorialize something interesting, but on November 11th, 11/11/11, it's exactly in the most powerful HD configuration to have a major effect on human consciousness on Earth. And I believe someone, the dark side of the force, if you will, to quote Lucas, who, by the way, is not a minor player in this big picture, he's involved in the Comet Holmes thing, Keith, which you and I have to have a really cool conversation and discuss, that on November 11th, 11/11/11, something has been designed by whoever has sent this emissary, this thing, this Elanine, to visit us, to harbinger, you know, Carl's peak of the ninth wave, where consciousness is supposed to unify and we're supposed to expand and realize that we're all brothers and sisters in the force on this planet, attempting to change the badness to goodness. and someone else is trying to intervene and take control of the conversation, to me, it's now very obvious. Now, how can we prove this? We go back to the whiteboard, we get rid of this, and we pull up my next slide, which is really amazingly prophetic, because right here is an object which should not exist in this conversation. This is, and I'll get rid of this little guy. I can't get rid of him, so I'll get rid of him. All right. This is the cover graphic of a very popular video game called Automatic. I didn't realize that this was a video game up until a few days ago, because the other place where this very strange and bizarre figure appears is actually on the JPL website itself. Tommy, can you zoom in? Let me try to get my little arrow here. Zoom in right here. Okay. Zoom in on this feature. Okay, it's going to take a little while. Look at this. I've got the arrow blinking. Okay, this is the JPL ephemeris. This is actually on the JPL page, on the applet page, where when you go to that page, you will see this at the bottom of the screen, and we'll have on the Camelot website all of these links so you can go and check this for yourself. All right, we're coming up to speed, I think. Okay, the time lag is not helping. I love doing these things in real time. Okay, there we are. If you notice where the little arrow is, which is blinking, I'll do it again. It says on the JPL website that the producer of this ephemeris is Automatic, O-T-T-O space M-A-T-I-C. I'll do it one more time. We're zoomed in properly. Okay. Everybody can see that now. Data source, ORB, producer, Automatic. Now, let's go back to the other graphic, because it turns out that Automatic is a fictional character derived solely from this internet game, this video game, which is, I mean, you can download the thing now. They actually have instruction manuals. Let me give you a tiny plot synopsis, okay? The plot synopsis is that Otto is a good robot from Earth who is sent out by good guys to try to defeat bad invading hordes of bad robots who have imprisoned a group of human beings on another planet. And Otto, the good robot pictured on the cover of this video game, has to go and save them and thereby save planet Earth. This is the inside conversation going on in NASA over Elanine. As they used to say on Perry Mason, I rest my case.